Hello, everyone. So welcome to this group discussion. In this case, we are going to talk about computer-assisted language learning. And we have some guests, Patricia Malisa, Elsa Pinta, and Andrea Lascano. I decided to talk about this topic because nowadays technology is essential, is meaningful in teaching learning process because it helps learners and teachers to use different apps, platforms, and websites to teach English and develop some skills like listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So for that reason, I would like to listen to you because you are experts as teachers. So for that reason, let's start with Elsa Pinta. Please, could you share us your experiences if you know what is the meaning of called computer-assisted language learning, and give one example, please.
Okay, guys. At the first, I shared that some ideas about the code. In my case, I believe that I use the behaviorist code because I work at Unidad Educativa Ciudad de la UPSI, and after the landslide that's occurring in my city, in the last 4 months of the previous academic year, I work in the virtual way. In this case, I use that some application. I use another tools like Canva, British Council page for the listening to my students. And the lip worksheets page I use for brainstorming grammar and practice another important aspect like vocabulary. I use it lip worksheet because it page permit to my students drill the grammar in any time, and through the repetition, I believe that my students have better results at the end. And another important aspect in this case, I use the Google Forms to take the chemistry test.
Okay, you mentioned drills and repetition. That is could be nice exercises for a student because they can learn new vocabulary and new things. What about Elsa with approaches? Have you ever listened like a behavioral approach, cognitive approach, and socio-cognitive approach inside of this method or theory? Have you ever listened? Which approach do you use in your class?
Okay, according to the article that I read yesterday, I used the structural behavioral approach to call because it consists on grammar and vocabulary, tutorials, exercises, and practice and language assessment tools strictly follow the model, the computer as a tutor. For this reason, I believe that I use the behaviorists because I emphasize in a lot of repetition. I consider this was very beneficial for my students.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let's start to listen to another guest. In this case, Andrea, please, could you share us your experience as teacher, please, about computer-assisted language learning, please?
Okay, based on my experience, comes to my mind the pandemic time because all the teachers were forced to work with the technology. For example, in my case, in order to highlight the communicative phase, we are creating like a forum in the chat. For example, at the moment when we create a forum, the students must answer the teacher's question, and also they must respond another students' comments. And also by using chat, students can communicate with the teacher by using a computer. These kind of activities are related to the behavioral approach because students can stimulate another students to speak, to write. For example, they can add comments like, good job, I agree with you, things like that, right? And also it is related with the social approach because we have the opportunity to communicate with another people by using a computer.
Okay, so you mentioned the forum that the student used to
Mhm.
develop writing and reading skills. But how efficient is this exercise?
Okay, this kind of exercise is essential and effective because we have the opportunity to transmit your ideas. The teacher can write a interesting question, and the students must be able to answer and respond on other students' comments. This is great because at the moment when you are doing that, you are developing the reading, writing, and also you are taking another kind of a skill that like vocabulary and spelling.
So in this case, let's talk about communications. The last question is, Andrea, we can use this exercise for all ages?
For all ages.
Yes. Do you
Yes, of
think?
course. Yes, of course, because as you know, that a chat is an informal way to communicate with person, and the students can write using the chat to communicate with the teacher uh, to respond to make a question about something.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrea. Now let's listen to another guest. Her name is Patricia. Patricia, have you ever used in your classroom CALL? It means computer assisted language learning.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna give you some experience as an English teacher. So when I started in 2020, I was to work as a teacher just for first time. So the educational field changes a lot. So the pandemic situation, everybody goes to the home and started to study by online or by computer. So it was difficult for a student, and also it was going to be difficult for teachers. So because in that moment, teacher does not were expert to using different tools, and also if for students going to be another way of to learning a language in this case. So later when the time goes down, sorry. So so there are many people, there are many teachers that are going to develop and using different tools to teach a language with the students. So we are going to integrate different tools. So in this case, for example, in the language, we can use videos, musics, and also we can use some apps where they can listen and also they can practice their pronunciation and their vocabulary. So it's been very good tools. So we can find very good tools in order to develop the four languages of the, for the skills, sorry, of the language. And it was very interactive for the students. We're talking about socio-cognitive approach. It implies the social interaction. In this case, was a computer and learners, and also learners and lessons based on computer.
Okay, so you mentioned about videos, about some platforms. My question is, how do could the platforms, apps, or website of songs motivate learners during the obvious learning process?
Because they are going to be very interactive, and also they can, as mentioned, develop some skills. For example, when they listen some videos or song, they are practicing and also pronunciation, they are practicing their listening, and also they can interrupt what other people are trying to say. So they are going to be find a lot of inputs in order to produce it. If we're talking, and also they can make a video recording where they can practice if their how to say dialogue, it's okay, and also they can erase and start it again to practice. So it's going to be more practical. So that is interactive, integrate all the skill. In this case, we can integrate drills, we can integrate communication, interaction between among students.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrea, Patricia, and Elsa. So let's remember nowadays technology is very important for all teachers and learners because a lot of students prefer to use like their devices to learn new language. For that reason, we need to train, we need to prepare, to motivate and to engage students in our classes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your ideas.
Thank
Thank
you.